first of all, let's consider what it means to be a Sun Temple martial artist. Part of what it means is the sun is in motion. The sun causes things to evaporate. This causes you to more effectively use the subconscious processes of your mind and your brain to redistribute resources in your body, which ultimately, combined with testosterone and other things, causes more lean muscle, right? An African kind of Bruce Lee kind of build, right? Thin muscle definition, okay? Not a wrestler build. So what does it mean to be the African Sun Temple martial art hero? And why is it absurd for women not to be receptive? Why is it absurd for society not to see it this way? Well, first of all, wisdom leads to heroism, period. Especially in a society of mediocre people where the contrast is considered. To be wise is to be heroic in this particular manner. Second, he's handsome as a result of his mind, body, soul glow. And it is what is naturally happens when we exercise and we're healthy. He's graceful, which ultimately leads to him being sensitive and vice versa. And nurturing. So when you see this person, you should say he's heroic, wise, handsome, graceful, sensitive, nurturing. And there's also qualities relating to what it means to outmaneuver someone in the first place. Obviously, it's a mental component more than a physical component. Think of the case of the wise martial art master versus the very in-shape student. How can he outmaneuver him when the guy has more physical prowess than the old man? Because the mental component is greater. Innovation, insight, speed, and movement. Stealth in terms of the inability for the opponent to understand the spirit that he's moving in. And also it relates to intelligence. Right? How are you fooling this person one way or another? Is you are outsmarting him. And the African Sun Temple martial arts hero, pure masculine spirit, mind you, doesn't need to use trickery and illusion. He simply becomes more in more harmony with the spirit, more one with God, more one with Ra, and therefore his opponent cannot understand him, as well as he can understand his opponent. Speaking and oral presentation. Okay, obviously they're causing sabotage. The wise observer says this guy has a superior oral presentation, a superior, more vibrant, precise, and focused oral presentation. Something is interfering. And it's logical to assume that he's telling the truth about him being sabotaged with the 15 witnesses, with the fact that they're trying to get him to take drugs, and there's obviously nothing wrong with him. He's obviously more aware of his surroundings, of his environment, of society, of how things work than most people are. So why is he being treated as if he has a problem? If this problem is really getting in his way, why wouldn't he willingly take the medicine? Why is he arguing against it? He knows what's best. And that goes back to the sparring and what is needed to spar, right? Insight, speed, movement, stealth, and we'll get into the more things later. Okay, the combination of factors that allow for life. Okay, intensity, discipline, determination, loyalty, morality, wisdom, honor, instinct, and subconscious awareness, and more. And this also comes out in his manners and mannerisms. Okay. So it is stupid for society not to perceive this. Now let's ask ourselves, are they stupid because they don't get it? They don't see it, right? Or are they stupid because they don't truly see it? They're not precise. They haven't nailed it dead center. They haven't blinded their bullseye. The wise archer understands why he misses his mark and corrects himself. He doesn't just understand that he's missed his mark, he corrects himself. How stupid would he be if he knew why he missed his mark and he didn't correct himself? So obviously it's related to intelligence and wisdom. So who understands it and who's an educated idiot? Who's a knowledgeable idiot? The fashion designer. They're designing clothes for different people and they're observing how they move, how they seem to be, how they are to some degree. So obviously when he's thinking about, hey, a martial artist moves this kind of way, he's shaped this kind of way, and we're trying to give the little guy the upper hand, we're trying to give the thick guy the upper hand, we're trying to make clothes so these people in our society can be seen as superior and more appealing, intelligent and attractive than these other guys whose clothes we design for them to be looking kind of goofy, you know, clown shoes, right? Clown car. What happens when a guy who's has shoes that are designed for people who are maybe 5'5", 5'6", okay, that look funny when they're on somebody who's 6'4", 6'6", and so on, you know, wears them, right? It's like the clown shoe effect. What happens when a tall guy drives a little man's car, big man, little car? A clown car effect. And of course, a clown has an afro. What happens when the white guy grows out his hair and kind of, you know, parts it and slicks it back? He looks smooth, right? He's smooth. What happens when a black person grows out his hair? You think of a clown, the tall clown black guy. Okay, and of course he has a different complexion, a different color to him than the perfectly tanned white guy. Okay, the hairstylist. What, you don't think they consider how the hair relates to the proportions of the features of the face and the forehead and accentuates the forehead and doesn't de-accentuate and so on? Okay, how it relates to the person's general style and culture and lifestyle. You know, think about the movie, in the movies, right? The hairstyles, the fashion designers, the costume designer, and so on. Of course, these people notice these things to some degree. They're just not wise enough to live the appropriate way. When we look at the biologists, the anthropologists, the archaeologists, the psychologists, the sociologists, the military, the comic book writers, you know, Marvel Comics, the entertainment industry, the social engineers, the eugenicists, which combines various forms of science to downplay these qualities to elevate white supremacists, Jews and Asians, and anyone who's more like them. Remember, black people are the most diverse, black Africans are the most diverse people genetically, pretty much and otherwise, and therefore there are some of them that are more like the oppressor, and there are some of them that are more like Narmer, Mene, and the followers of Horus the Elder, Haru the Elder. So now let's look at the forms of intelligence he has from their own scientific perspective. All these people on some level are aware of the interpersonal, the intrapersonal, right? The ability for you to understand yourself, the ability for you to understand others and their motivations, spatial intelligence, 3D visualizing nature, how objects in nature relate to each other, existential, why we're here. Why we're here in the first place goes into his training regimen. If you're mature and serious and dedicated, you have discipline and intensity, almost certainly it's a result of your existential philosophy. Why we're here, why you believe you're here, what you believe you're supposed to do. It's certainly a big factor in it, perhaps the determinant. We look at the naturalist form of intelligence, understanding nature, which also connects to these other things, human nature, why we're here, supernatural. Then the linguistics, in terms of Western conceptions, no. In terms of when to apply keying up, the ka, you know, when to apply it, what effect it has, how much your opponent can read into it. If you say and you wait 2 seconds, then strike, for instance, you know, if you never get around to applying the mind, body, soul, speech, you know, that goes into the diaphragm, which increases the force of the blow. When to increase the force of the blow, when not to. How it affects your breathing. All these things that you're coordinating, a combination of skills, transferable, universal, communicable, convertible, transferable, universal, communicable, convertible, and there's one more that I always used to say. Well, we'll get into that later. These different forms of skills. Okay. Moving on. Then there's the musical and rhythm in terms of playing songs. So that's an inferior form of intelligence than the form that people have been cultivating for 300,000 years as modern humans, which is, with Homo sapiens, which is the hunting rhythm, right? The rhythm of the animal, when to strike it. The rhythm of you're in your rhythm, your flow, and when to shoot the arrow, when to hit with the stone tools that have been around for, I believe it was 3 million years. It's either 3 million years or 1 million years. They've been around for a long time. How to apply these things in a kind of rhythm, dance-like manner to some degree. Logical, mathematical, right? not in terms of doing calculus, right? These people are showing inferior forms of wisdom if they're not also martial artists, to say the least, right? They've gone down an inferior path, the less wise man path, the lower path, right? They're not cultivating mind, body, soul, and spirit. They're cultivating the infrastructure of the inferior, corrupt, kleptocrat, criminal class, okay? Their order. So reason and do the math. Do the math. Walk the higher path. If you're really a great mathematician, why are you limiting yourself to calculus? Why haven't you done the sacred math, if you will? Why haven't you prioritized which form of math to do? Are you incapable of it? So again, when you look and consider these ideas, why would a woman reject them? And that goes back to Isis, his mother, in the story, the later story, and we can extract Horus the Elder's perspective by the trajectory of Horus the Younger. If his father had been Ra and not Osiris, and if his mother had been a more perfected Isis, a true worthy mother, not a sorcerer, not an imperfect deity. Okay, page 61, Egyptian mythology. Paul Ham and Veronica Ions or Lorenz. But it was the duty of the people to love and respect him. Stop right there. This is how dangerous this language thing is, this quote-unquote linguistic intelligence. You're trying to communicate to people whose ideas don't match reality, right? What does it mean to love and respect them? Is it just saying, well, I do love him, I do respect him? No. That is just lip service. That is just a watered-down idea. It's not truly the essence of it, which is something a martial artist understands. You can't do something halfway. You can't serve God halfway. You either do and give it all your all, or you don't. You know? If you're making love to someone, you want them to do it halfway? How much more serving God should it be done to the fullest? It's a no-brainer. It's delusional not to see it that way. So the cons of the modern Western perspective and the modern English language has to do with interpretations and translations and where they take you and how they relate to reality and what you actually should be doing. So it can't be accurately translated with modern English, okay? With modern intent. They're supposed to admire him and never ignore or refuse him. That is what they're truly getting at, love and respect him to this high degree. Not just what we commonly think of as love, which is watered down Western bitch shit, but to the truest meaning of the word, okay? So love becomes a watered down word that doesn't refer to the same idea that is actually being communicated by the story, which is admire him and never ignore or refuse him. The people must place the good of the world above their family and themselves, and they must identify with what is best for the world and for society and for God by following God's chosen, God's elect leader, the Pharaoh, the Pharaoh, the fair. Anyone who's gotten there with ill-gotten gains is not the fair leader. You can't wipe out this guy's bloodline and then replace him. It can't be done. He is the Pharaoh. Okay. The fishermen were trying to help an enemy combatant from Set's perspective. So in the story, the fishermen are crying because he's been poisoned by Set after he took the form of a snake and bit him. And he's referred to as his uncle in the story, which is different from what Set is actually to Horus when Horus is the son of Ra, which can be more accurately seen as a brother or something who isn't chosen. This is also the different direction. If you then say, well, this guy's brother, his brother is not a worthy replacement. It has to be his son through that line and through this line correctly, right? It's not snake in this person. That's the snake line. His own brother can't replace him. His own brother's children can't replace him, okay? The fishermen were trying to help an enemy combatant from Set's perspective. So you must put yourself in harm's way and be willing to sacrifice yourself and your family. And this leads us to what they would say. They don't want to go there and will silence and play out those that would even begin to suggest that they should. They're saying, no, we're not going to go there. They're communicating that to everyone, whether they see it that way, whether they perceive it that way or not. Perceptiveness is also part of being the ideal person, being the African Sun Temple, pure masculine spirit martial arts. So when you consider the psychological consideration and everything else, they've fallen short of glory and wisdom and so on. They don't want to go there and will silence and play out those that would even begin to suggest that they should. Thank you.